Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the College Football Show on the Sports Talkline Network, where we talk sport 24/7, 365. Guys, I'm your host, Spinksy, and this week we come to you live from the couch, and we are talking SEC football. That's right, the Southeast Conference is back, and we are pumped. The best teams in college football will finally play games this weekend. Just on a side note, guys, Sports Talkline just hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. We've got our own merchandise now, some shirts, some masks, a handbag or two. Go on there, have a look, tell them Spinksy sent you and you will get a 0% discount, all right? Check it out. Guys, this week we've got a full SEC preview. We're talking all 14 teams, all the way from your top team, LSU, down to your lower team, Alabama. So we'll come through that. We'll do all 14 teams. We've got all sussed out, guys. The best games to watch this weekend. The best games to watch all year. We've got guys who are in, guys who are out. The win totals, everything. We are across the whole thing. A good friend of mine, David, comes on the show and we break down every single team. So without further ado, let's welcome in David. Righto, guys. A good friend of mine, David, has decided to join us to have an SEC preview this week. So, guys, here we go. David, can you please tell me why you support the Alabama Crimson Tide?
Well, thanks, Spinksy. Apart from the obvious being the best team in college football, there's probably a few other good reasons. I actually went to college in America about 25 years ago. And up in upstate New York. So we spent a lot of snowy weekends in the dorm rooms watching football over the weekend. So watching college on the Saturday and NFL on the Sunday. And actually just had to pick a team that no one else went for because I didn't want to go with the pack as we do. So, and that same year, Forrest Gump came out with obviously with an Alabama focus. So I just chose Alabama. That was basically the reason. No other reason other than that. So, and I've been a fan ever since.
Very nice, mate. Very nice. Look, Alabama fans are not usually welcome on this show, but here we are. Hard times, hard times. So
yeah. I've got a full set of teeth, and I can talk more than a few syllables. So I'm all good.
So we're fine then. We're fine.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Look. Tonight, here we are. Finally, the SEC is back. We are so stoked. We're going to get a full schedule of games. SEC is going to have 10 games this season. We can't wait. And finally, we don't get those crappy games that no one wants to see. We don't get the LSUs against the teams that no one worries about. We're finally going to get a full just SEC schedule, and the two of us are pumped. So tonight, we're going to go through all 14 teams. We're going to start with the East, then we're going to head to the West. And first off, we've got the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, look, mate, if you don't mind, I'd like to go first. The Tennessee Volunteers. It looks like, mate, that they're going to bring in Cade Mays, the offensive guard from Georgia. Now, this kid is a superstar. If you line him up with Trey Smith on the other side, Tennessee are going to have an offensive line to rival anyone. Yes, they might not have the attacking style everyone else has, but I honestly think they're good for a good bowl game and can possibly finish 6-4. I think they'll beat the teams that are unranked, but I don't think they'll beat the teams ahead of them that are ranked. So I'm going to say Tennessee 6-4. Dave, how do you feel about Tennessee this year?
Yeah, well, I've actually got them at 5-5. I'm not as bullish on them. They're Jarrett Guarantano, their QB. I'm not high on him, to be honest. He was a bit coming down in the fourth quarter games last year. He was very inconsistent. His decision making is not quite there. He needs to get his completions up. And so my number for him, he's got to get over 60% completion, and he's got to throw less than 5 interceptions this year for them to be even close to 6-4 and get a good, decent bowl game. So I'm not sold on them. They've got 6 games v ranked teams.
Yeah.
But they've got to rely on beating Auburn, I think, to get 6 and 4. So
that's what I thought.
I'm not. Yeah, so I think they're a 5 and 5. I mean, they do have momentum. They won 5 in a row last year, beat Indiana in their bowl game, so they've got that to build on. But I think there's other teams that are better.
Yeah, I think that those matches, like they played Texas A&M and they played Auburn too. I think those matches are kind of not a throw at the dartboard, but they're a tight matches. And I think if they can overcome those sort of tight matches, they can potentially go from a 4 and 6 to a 5 and 5 to a 6 and 4. I think they're on that edge.
Yeah, they're doing that middle group of the SEC, and so to get to that next level, you've got to have those elite players and good decision making at the clutch moments.
Yeah. So look, the two of us sort of have Tennessee around the same. How do you think about Vandy, mate? Vanderbilt. What do you think?
Ooh, ugly.
I know.
Ugly. Ugly. I've got them at. I went through and did their strengths and weaknesses, and I got strength as none.
Yes.
So
I've got the same thing.
So everything's new there this year. They've got apart from the head coach, they've got the new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. They've got 4 QBs, and one of them has had one snap at FBS level. So they've got nothing.
Yeah, they've got nothing at all.
The best chance of a win, I think, is probably Missouri.
Yeah.
But I reckon they'll struggle all year.
Yeah, look, I've got them 50-50 against Missouri and losing every other game.
Yeah.
I think Vanderbilt.
That's about right, yeah.
Yeah, so I think last year they went maybe 3-13 or 4-12, but the teams they won matches against were outside the SEC.
Yeah.
So I can't see
outside the Power 5.
Yeah, I can't see them winning games this year. I think they're just making up the numbers, which is hard. So look, let's skip over them and let's go Missouri Tigers. The Missouri Tigers, mate. How do you see them going in 2020?
Well, they've had a few issues. They've got a new QB coming over from
Congrats, yeah.
Yeah, he's just finding my notes here. Sean Robinson coming over from TCU, sat out last year, had a really good year in the Big 12 in 18. Threw for a pile of yards, pile of TDs. Big 12 QB play is always pretty strong. Offensive sort of conference. They've got a decent O-line. Got 4 out of 5 returning starters. But on the other side, they've got a year 1 coach, and they've had a huge issues with COVID with that program in particular. So I'm still not even 100% sure the game will go ahead this weekend. So
yes, I heard that too.
It's a bit up and down. Pretty tough schedule. They play at the moment. They're playing teams that are ranked 2, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
So in terms of wins, I've got them at 3.
Yeah, look, I actually have them at 2 and 8. However, I do like their running back, Larry Roundtree. Now, Larry should have came out last year in the draft. Larry decided to come back and stay another year. I'm not sure why Larry was doing that. Like, they were the hot topic all year, running back. And Larry's an animal. So I can see them doing well only with him. But I think they beat Arkansas, and I think they beat Mississippi State. So I'm guaranteeing them 2 wins, maybe a third if they're lucky. But I think Missouri will also struggle this year. So
I think they're on certainly the bottom end of the SEC. Yeah, I think this year it'll be a trend right through the conference and right through college football that teams that have got a first-year coach, because of limited spring practices, the first-year coaches will really struggle, I think, to get that momentum and get that sort of players playing together as a team. So,
Yeah.
and if you're one of those teams and you're in a 10-game SEC schedule, you haven't got any games to practice against those weaker side, non-Power 5 teams.
And especially coaches which aren't coming from the SEC. Coaches that are from the Big Ten or whatever, or smaller schools, they'll struggle even more because they're not used to the competition of the SEC. So,
exactly. Yeah.
All right, so up next we have South Carolina, one of my dark horses this year, right? So towards the back end of the season, I think they can beat Missouri. I think they can beat Kentucky, and I think they can beat Mississippi. And they've got their quarterback Colin Hill returns. He's back from Colorado State. This kid is a talent. I can see them being better through the air with the ball. I think they might go 4-6. I think South Carolina will surprise a few teams. It's a bit hard. They've got a difficult system set up there. There's a few hard matches, but I think towards the back end, they're likely to get 2 or 3 wins. I see them going 4-6. South Carolina, mate. How do you see them?
Well, I'm not as bullish again. They're on a bit of a, I think they're on the trend down. I think Muschamp's been there a few years now. He hasn't done so well. Last 4 years, they're 2-11 against ranked teams, and they've got 7 ranked teams this year in their 10-game schedule. So they've won 2 games against ranked teams in 4 years. They've got to play Tennessee this week. I was really surprised at the line, actually.
So short, man. It was so short.
3.5. I couldn't believe it was 3.5. So
that's crazy, yeah.
But I do know that the total's only 43.5. So obviously you're expecting a low-scoring game. So a field goal's probably not too bad. But yeah, I think it's a really good point on the QB, and it's really important that the new OC, Mike Bobo, comes from Colorado State as well. So he's bringing that scheme over from Colorado State. They were another air raid team. So South Carolina have always had a really good defense. Always rely on them to be tough up front. They were good when they had Jake Bentley a few years ago. Actually, they just need that really good QB to get them forward. This is a good year, but again, with that record against ranked teams, I just can't see them getting any more than 3.
Yeah. Well, look, I think I really like that quarterback coming across from Colorado State. I think the man's got talent, but again, it's one of those things where that they could potentially be a 1-9, 2-8, 3-7, 6-4, maybe. I think they've just got. There's so many options out there that I think they're potentially going to be okay or really, really bad. So
yeah.
So next up, we've got Kentucky, the third last team in the West. The Kentucky. Look, mate, I think Kentucky will go 5-5. I've seen them ranked 7-3 this year, as high as 7-3, and I'm not sure what old mate was smoking, but I had them at 5-5. Look, I think they'll challenge a few teams. I think they are a solid team across the park. They're currently ranked 23, but I don't think they're ranked enough to confuse the good teams out there. I think they'll get a good bowl matchup, but I don't think they're going to push for any more than maybe top 20. How do you feel about them?
Yeah, I agree. 5-5. I had them 5-5 as well. The strength of Kentucky is their run game. They've got a really, really good run game, decent O-line. So it all depends on who they match up against. So if they come up against a team that hasn't got a good run defense, that they might do better. If they've got a team that is strong up front, maybe have a weaker secondary, they might struggle because they haven't recruited well at wide receiver. So they haven't really got an elite or what I call an SEC passing game. They're a ground and pound kind of team. So again, they've got to jag on. They've got to rely on jagging a win. this weekend, opening weekend's probably their best opportunity. They've got Tennessee, but I mean they're not beating the big teams. They've got Bama, Auburn, Georgia, and Florida. They're not winning those games.
That's hard, man. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not winning those, and they probably will lose. They may lose against Tennessee, but yeah, 5-5 for me.
Right, up next, mate. Look, I'll let you go first. The Florida Gators. How do you feel about the Florida Gators?
Well, I'm really good on them. I'm really strong on them. I think great QB. Cole Trask, you can argue he's probably the best QB in the SEC. You could argue that pretty easily, I think. Great, some good numbers last year. 67% completions, 25 TDs, 7 INTs. They're stacked on defense. They're mean up front on defense. I guess some of the negatives, they lost 4 of their wide receiver core to the NFL. And their run game is probably not as strong as it could be. So they've got a pretty easy schedule. They're probably going to go 8-2.
8-2, nice. So are you saying they're in the top 4? Are they top 4?
Can we leave that to the end?
Leave that to the end. We shall leave that to the end.
So, nice. But I think there's an opportunity for them to go 9-1.
Big call.
Well, this is what it's about. Yep, you got to put it on the line.
Yeah, put it on the line. There it is.
They've got to play Georgia in Jacksonville, the greatest outdoor cocktail party, as they call it.
Sure is, man.
I think they've got a chance to win that game, and if they win that game, I think they'll go 9-1.
They come up against Georgia and the LSU Tigers, and I think those 2 matches are probably the games that will turn this season. If they can win those 2 games, as you said, they could potentially be 9-1. They've lost a lot of guys to the draft. Defensively, they're awesome. Kyle Trask is growing with every match. I think every time every time he's out there, he gets stronger and stronger and stronger. He's still got Trayvon Grimes and Kadarius Toney, and I think the future is strong for him. However, I think the future is strong next year. I think they're good now. I think they're good. I'm going to say they're 7-3.
Ooh.
I'm going to say 7-3 for the Gators. However, next year, I think they could be a 9-3 team, 9-2.
Yeah, definitely.
I think they're better next year. Now, mate, the next team I have, the last team in the East is Georgia Bulldogs. I'm going to let you go first because I have a big take on Georgia here.
Right.
So how do you feel about Georgia?
Well, again, probably in the SEC, they're up there with Alabama and LSU in terms of recruiting ability. I went through their roster today. They've got 16 5-star recruits, so they've recruited fantastically. They're a defense-orientated team, so they try and snuff out games by just beating you up on the up front.
Yeah.
They've obviously lost a 4-year starter QB in Jake Fromm to the NFL. They've brought over JT Daniels from USC, who was going to be the next thing at USC but got injured. Now, I think that I read today, Jamie Newman is sitting out.
He's out, yes. Newman's opted out, yeah.
Yeah, he's opted out of the season. Yeah. So that puts So for me, I had to rethink this because JT Daniels is injured. He hasn't played a snap for a long time. And here he is coming in, first-year SEC start. Yes, he's fresh, but he's never started 10 games in the SEC before.
At all, no.
And he hasn't seen a defense like he'll see every week in the SEC. So
it's going to be hard, yeah.
It's going to be tough. I think 8-2 for me. I think I think they'll lose to Alabama. And
of course you do. Of course you do.
Yeah, and I think Florida will get him. I think Florida will get him.
I've actually, this is strange, though. I wrote an article on the Sports Talk Line website, which you should all hop on and check out Sports Talk Line on YouTube and elsewhere. They recruited Jamie Newman. Jamie Newman has decided he would opt out. Jamie Newman's from Wake Forest, yeah.
Yep.
And they brought in JT Daniels at a USC. Now, JT Daniels hasn't seen the kind of competition that you and I see every week. And I think Georgia was my favorite to win the SEC. Georgia was my favorite to win it all about three months back. And I wanted Georgia to go the whole way. The schedule was released. They play Bama, they play Auburn, and they play Florida. Defense. So I think a young quarterback coming out of a young dude out of USC can potentially struggle against guys who are just going to rush him every single time.
Yeah.
So I find that JT Daniels could be under the bump. The dude's only small. He's not real big. He's small. So if he gets hit a few times, things can get nasty. They've also lost their best wide receiver, Dominic Beclock, to an ACL. They've lost their second receiver. They've lost a few dudes in the draft, and Georgia potentially look on the outer. However, I still pick Georgia to go 9-1.
Oh,
and win the SEC. Hot take.
No,
Georgia wins the SEC.
No.
Georgia wins the SEC. That's happening.
No.
Folks.
Yes. Ain't happening.
Only call of the year. Georgia
they're not even going to win the East.
Here we go. Righto, guys. Look, that was the 7 teams in the East. Thank you very much. We'll take a short break now, and we'll be back with the SEC West. Thank you. Righto. Very nice.
How was that?
That was awesome. That was great, man. It was fantastic. Yeah. So this is where we sort of stops and they'll edit this out. So
Yep.
Dude, that was awesome. That was great, man.
No, John, thank you.
It was very good.
No, it was it's sort of you start to worry that you've got all enough information, but it's all stored up there. It just comes out, you know.
Yeah. So I found over so long, I write notes, so I know that Georgia's got this and this and this and this and this, and over time those notes they're there. So you just start talking, and then that's why I remember he's out, he's in. So you just over time it just happens, man. It's just how it is.
Yeah. I just found it came out. It just came out pretty easy. So
see, I told you, man, you'd be absolutely fine. It's so easy.
Yeah, that's all good. It's when you're confident about something, it's easy to talk about it. So and when you got a passion about something, it's easy to talk about.
And that's what I found too. The first few times, like I wrote articles, I thought for about 2 years with them, and I was so nervous about trying to speak on camera. And they're like, "Oh, hop on, man. We'll talk about this." And I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it." Like I'm so on paper, I'm fine. You type, you write, you're fine, and then you start talking. You're like, "Oh, I don't want to be the guy who says Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback of the Cowboys." Because then everyone's like, what a fucking idiot. What is wrong with you? What would you say that for? And I'm like, oh, my God. Talk about someone who's in this league who's been injured for like 3 weeks. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy who fucks it up that bad. He's like...
it's happened before at even, you know, I think some people... I remember there was that Stephen Smith at ESPN does it all the time. He calls people in when they don't even play for that team and stuff like that. So it happens.
but that's okay when you're famous. But I just, it's hard to find out. Good. So, look, we've covered the East, so we'll go into the West.
Who's first?
I've got Arkansas.
Another ugly.
Yeah. So Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and then we get into the good ones: Auburn, A&M, LSU, and Bama, so yeah. All right.
I'm ready whenever you are.
I might just go to the toilet. We're back.
Yeah, go.
So welcome back, guys. We are here with the SEC preview of the SEC West. All right, Dave, how do you feel about Arkansas?
Well, Arkansas is they're going to struggle. I think they're going to bagel this year.
Bagel, the full bagel.
They got a full bagel. They haven't won an SEC game since 2017. And they've got a 10-game SEC schedule. So guess what? Going to bagel it. So the QB, Felipe Franks, transfer from Florida, got pushed out by Cole Trask. He's an okay QB. Can throw it. He's won a couple of clutch games while he was at Florida. They've got a decent running back, Rakeem Boyd. He was in that show on Netflix, Last Chance U. I don't know whether anyone caught that.
Yes,
he's at Independence Community College, so he's pretty good. But they struggle to recruit talent that the East do because they're way out in the boonies out in Arkansas, Western Arkansas. So
that's 100% right.
and they struggle to get players out there. So they can score, but their defense is woeful, just absolutely woeful. So I've got them in a tough schedule. They've got 7 of their 10 teams are ranked in the top 25. So bagel this year. Missouri is probably their best chance of having a win.
Mate, so, I actually had them going 2-8. I think they might beat Mississippi State and Mississippi. Now, I had Franks in the draft last year. For those of you who have been watching me for ages, I was doing the draft cards last year. I had Franks going in the 5th round. If he decided to come out last year, I had him going in the 5th round. Instead, he transfers over, and the kid has decided to play from Florida to Arkansas, and I see him going from the 5th round to being undrafted and playing with The Rock in the XFL. Felipe Franks has done himself no justice at all. I'd be very surprised. I've got them 1-9, 2-8. I'd be very surprised if they did anything this year. So
yeah, I think. Yeah, I think so. They're a good offensive team. Like they scored last year, but their defense, they just couldn't stop anything last year. So I'm just not sure they've strengthened that side of the ball. So unless they can do something, who knows? But
it's hard for them, isn't it? So look, up next in the West, we have Mississippi State. Now, mate, up the first week, Mississippi State have to play LSU Tigers, my favourite team on the planet. Now, they might have Mike Leach as their head coach for the first time, and Mike Leach is very air raid offense. And I understand that Mike Leach is there to help Mississippi State to throw the football around more. They've got KJ Costello from Stanford, who wasn't wanted at Stanford. Yes, he might be smart because he went out of Stanford, but if he was smart, he would have joined the NFL last year, as was their running back, Colin Hill. And yes, Colin Hill is an animal. 1,300 yards the last few years, but both of them should have joined the NFL. Instead, they're going to come up against Coach O and the LSU Tigers in week 1, and Mississippi State will be lucky to go 5-5. How do you feel, mate? Mississippi State.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm actually excited to watch them play this year because Mike Leach is an interesting character. He's not your regular coach. He's a bit out there. Any coach that can coach Gardner Minshew and get him to the NFL, I think he's doing well. Yeah, that's it. It. So again, it's similar sort of things. Colin Hill's a beast. He led the SEC in rushing last year. He's back, as you say. But I've got a feeling that they'll start to switch from running to passing with Costello and Leach at the helm. So that'll be interesting to see that. Question mark for me is, do they have the wide receivers to take advantage of that air raid? And one of the things that is at Mississippi State is the cowbells. At home games, the cowbells ring. creates that atmosphere. But they won't have it this year, so it's the same. Oh, we'll get it. We'll talk about similar sort of thing at LSU, in Death Valley. So, but I've got them 3 wins. Their most important game is the Egg Bowl versus Ole Miss. So if they can do well there, they might get to 4. But for me, 3.
Yeah, I've actually had them at 5 and 5, which I know is weird, but I think their most important match of the year is their first one because they're up against LSU on Sunday time, and I think that if they can produce a strong enough match against LSU, even if they lose, I think they're in for a huge year. So despite the fact they might lose on the weekend, I think they're potentially in for a strong year. So we'll see how Mississippi Rebels go. But, mate, up next we have Ole Miss. How do you feel about Ole Miss? It's been a long time since Ole Miss have been relevant. How do you think Ole Miss will do in 2020?
I have nightmares about Ole Miss because they used to always jag a win against Alabama all the time, and
every year, man.
They're a nightmare team for me.
Yeah.
As well as that other team from Alabama, I don't like to say their name. I just call them the other team from Alabama. So, but yeah, you got Lane Kiffin, coach again, first-year coach, an offensive guy. Spent some time at FAU, and they scored a ton of points, but just couldn't defend. So, but they've got good rushing side. They ranked 2nd in SEC last year in rushing and 9th nationally in rushing numbers. So they're a good, solid unit there. They won't have a trouble scoring. They brought in DJ Durkin from Maryland to get the defense up and running.
I like it too.
That'll be good. Yeah, from a strong Big Ten team. So if they can, again, the issue for me is first year in. Have they had enough time to work with the defense to bring them up to SEC standard? That's the issue for me. I've got them 4 and 6.
I actually have the exact same thing. So I've got Ole Miss at 4 and 6. I think they'll sort of do what they're supposed to do, but they won't surprise anyone. I think they'll win the games. They will certainly win the games supposed to win, but they won't sort of beat everyone else. And it'll suck because I think Kiffin's a great coach and what he brings to the SEC is awesome. But I also think that the team he has around him this year is rubbish. So that's just how it is.
Yep.
So, yeah, look, up next, we've only got like 4 teams left. So up next, we have the Auburn Tigers. And look, mate, I'd like to go first here. Every week for Auburn is huge. Auburn have got one of the toughest schedules that we've ever seen. But I think Auburn can be very, very strong. Auburn have got the solid defense that everyone thinks they will always have, and they've got a quarterback named Bo Nix, Bonix. That's it, 5 letters in his whole name, Bonix. And I think he's on the rise. I really do think Bo Nix is on the rise. I think the Auburn Tigers will go 7 and 3, and we'll have a bowl game this year. And I'm talking a good bowl game. I'm talking a New Year's bowl game. They won't finish top 4, but Auburn will have a very strong. I'm going to say Auburn will finish 7th this year. Auburn will finish 7th. How do you feel about the Auburn Tigers, mate?
Yeah, well, I've got them at 7 and 3 as well. I hate to admit it because I just don't like the team because they're our enemy. But yeah, I'm not sold on Bo Nix, to be honest. He's got another year, so he's got the opportunity to improve. But his completion rate last year was only 58%. So, and maybe they don't have the offensive line to protect him, so his completions were down. So, and they're not necessarily known for their wide receivers. They're more known for their running game. Kerryon Johnson a few years ago going to the NFL. So they only threw 16 TDs last year and 6 interceptions. So still pretty inconsistent. But again, year 2, he's going to improve. So there's no knock on him. But they've lost plenty of talent to the NFL, though. They lost 4 of their 5 O-line to the NFL. If the guys that are coming in and starting this year can protect Nicks, I think they'll go 7-3. The critical game for me, obviously, is the Iron Bowl.
Iron Bowl's huge. Yeah.
They always pull something out. I have nightmares about the kick 6 from 2013. So
do I.
It's a nightmare. So.
I have dreams about it.
So yes, 7-3. So
look, our third last team. I'll let you go first. How do you feel about Texas A&M? Do you think they are a contender, or are they just pretending?
Yeah, well, Kellen Mond, again, he's one of those QBs you could argue is the best in the SEC. It feels like he's about 30 years of age. Like he's been there forever. I think he's a 4-year starter. The really strong thing for me with Texas A&M, and I've mentioned it before, but they've got a lot of return. They didn't lose a lot to the NFL last year. They've got a lot of return. They've got returning QB, their leading rusher, and their leading receiver all return. So it's the same offense basically as last year. Got stability. But again, they've got all this talent, but they just can't execute when it comes down to it. They either go into overtime and lose, or they lose close games, or they're always there and thereabouts, but they just lack that bit of punch at the end of games just to knock them over. Mon's got to improve that leadership and lead the team to a win. Again, I think they've got 5 games against ranked teams. Key game for me is LSU or Auburn. They've got to beat one of those 2. I think they go 7-3.
I actually had them at 5-5.
Whoa!
I've got them at 5-5. However, I've got them at 5-5 because I am a terrible LSU fan, and the year 3 years ago they went 7 overtimes and they beat us. It was like 72-76. That it was horrible. 70-75. Yeah. It was a horrible game, and we lost to them. And that took us from a Orange Bowl to a KFC Bowl, and that made us a terrible year. Yes, we're now national champions, but that match against A&M has become sort of a rivalry game for us. So how you feel about Auburn? I feel about A&M now. And yes, an average quarterback, and I think A&M have the potential to be strong, but I thought they had the potential to be strong when they had a guy named Johnny Manziel. And they haven't been strong since then. So I think every year they've just sort of got worse and worse and worse. So I think they're not going to get any stronger until they can potentially fix everything. So I think A&M is sort of in a position where they face Auburn this year, they face LSU this year. They have a very tough task of trying to beat those teams. And I think if Auburn is strong on the day, Auburn wins. A&M could go 7-3, but they could also go 3-7. If results go against them, things happen. They have an old lineman out. They have this out. They have that out. There's a potential for A&M to be horrible, but there's also potential for them to be awesome. So we'll see how A&M do this year.
Yeah.
And look, up next we have 2 teams left, and that's my team and your teammate. So look,
all right.
I'll start off first with the LSU Tigers, your defending national champions, who are, of course, going to go 10-0 and win your national championship again. Now, look, seriously, LSU, obviously, your national champion folks. we've lost 33 guys to the draft. We've had guys sit out through COVID. Your national champions, they broke every single record the SEC had last year. They broke the passing record, the touchdown record, the receiving record, the rushing record. Edwards-Helaire, Burrow, Chase, all the boys. LSU owns every record under the sun. And then we switch over and we are in 2020. And we are chasing our tail. And we've decided that this year we're playing Bama, Auburn, and Florida, and we've got no one. Now, in Coach O, we trust. Coach O is the man. If Coach O says we are okay, I believe him. But we're also honestly, we're going 8-2 to potentially being 2-8. Like we can spread that far. Our draw this year is so hard that, yes, we may go 8-2 and be a national championship top 4 winning side. Or we could go 2-8 and be having a KFC Bowl against Auburn somewhere in nowhere. We've got so many options, and LSU is in trouble. I can't honestly sit here and tell you that everything that we've done is going to be fantastic, or everything we're going to do is going to be awesome. We've lost Joe Brady. We've lost David Aranda. We brought back Bo Pelini. We brought back Bo Pelini from years ago. What are we thinking? We've got 2 guys on our offense from last year, and we've got 3 on defense. The bloke we're looking for this year, folks, if you want a name to chase this year, is my boy Cardell Thomas. Look for him, Cardell Thomas. He'll be playing offensive tackle up front. He'll be trying to protect at quarterback this year, Miles Brennan. Cardell Thomas is a big unit. Tories ACL last year. Cardell Thomas is the man going forward. Look for him to be drafted in 2 years' time. I'm so nervous about what rank to give. Look, my final thought is LSU 7-3. 7-3 LSU, and we get a bowl match, but it's a rubbish bowl. I'm saying we have a bowl before Christmas. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. Dave, how do you feel? LSU?
All right. Yeah, well, I mean, and you mentioned all those important things that we need to consider when we look at LSU this year.
So much
They've lost 40% of their team, and they lost. And the guys you mentioned, Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jamar Chase is sitting out. I mean, that's like almost a side there, in terms of what they offer the team.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, but on the other side, they have this ability to recruit talent. I reckon that if Coach O was in my living room, he'd probably recruit me. So if he wanted to, so he has that ability to recruit. So
sure does.
And even though we don't know the names of a lot of their players, I'm sure there'll be 2 or 3 or 4 at the end of the year who will know their names for sure, because they recruit that talent. We just don't know who they are yet. So I think I've actually got them going 8-2.
And that's the end of our show, folks. Thank you very much.
Go on. We haven't got the best team yet. In reality, talent talent alone should get them to 6-4.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
So
you can't. Yeah, it's so far between 6-4's average, but 9-1, or So I mean, we're so close to being. Are we there or are we not? So.
Yeah, and I think they play Florida, so that could be a crucial game for them. If they can jag a win against Florida, that could propel them up the rankings a little bit more, because as you know, I'm pretty hot on Florida. So
that matchup, I think we play on the 10th of November. The folks, the 10th of November, when LSU play Alabama, the sky will fall in, the buildings will drop. 10th of
Oh
November.
yeah.
So look,
No. Look, I'm not anti LSU this year. I just because I know what they can recruit, and even though I don't know who they are or what their names are, they will have guys that will be stars at the end of the year.
which is what we all want. Hopefully, no, mate. Look, the last team we have, our 14th team, is the Alabama Crimson Tide. And look, I'm going to let you go first because you are an Alabama fan, and then obviously whatever you say will be all crap. But here we go.
How long have we got?
30 seconds. Go.
I just got 2 words. Roll Tide. Roll Tide.
As long as you want, mate. As long as you want.
Well, obviously, disappointing 2019 with Tua getting injured at the end of the year. That the whole that they changed complexion Alabama in 2018, 2019. They went from a defensive run offense to a pass heavy offense because of Tua was so good. This year, I'm hoping they go back to that defensive and run game, and I think that's where that's right in their wheelhouse. So I'm hoping they do that. They've got talent out the yin yang. Honestly, they've got Dylan Moses is back on defense, injured last year. He's ready to have a big year and get to the NFL next year. Wide receiver got Waddle and Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith. Running back Najee Harris. They're just stacked everywhere. I mean, they lost to Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs, but they just got these guys that are just coming through. And a lot of these guys Alabama's going to end up with, I reckon, about 6 or 7 in the first round next year. So without too much drama.
2 at best.
6 or 7.
2 at best.
Mac Jones is a good QB. He's not an elite QB. He's not.
But he's strong. He's strong. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big guy. Gets in the pocket, can pass, tall. They've also got Bryce Young, big 5-star recruit. Big reps on him. Not sure he'll get many reps this year. Depends how they go. So the one thing they need to improve on is the big moments. I think I've mentioned it before. Last year in the big moments against that other team from Alabama, they just lost those big moments. So if they can just win those, they should do really well this year. They got six ranked teams, but that's nothing to them. They're usually playing pretty decent opposition anyway. I want to say 10-10, 10-0.
10-0, yeah.
But I actually think they'll against Auburn, LSU, or Georgia, they might drop one of those. So I'm tipping they'll go 9-1, but and they'll make the top 4.
I'm tipping you go 8-2. Right? So I'm saying
who's beating them?
LSU, obviously, and I say Georgia. LSU and Georgia. So I say you go 8-2, and then you play Georgia again, and we'll talk about that. Look, I think I'm so concerned about what LSU have had an awesome year, and we're trying to reproduce it. Whereas Nick Saban, as much as I don't want to like Nick Saban, you guys have had 10, 12, 15 dudes drafted every year in the top 2 rounds, 3 rounds, and Alabama they produce talent year after year after year. And it's not about having a guy for a year. It's about having a guy for 3 years, and then they get through the draft, and then you start over. You start over again and again and again and again. And Nick Saban continually produces talent year after year after year. And as much as I want to smack Nick Saban in the mouth, that man produces talent all the time. So it's so hard for me to accept what Nick Saban is trying to do when LSU taught him everything that he actually knows.
Yeah.
I
They
just
taught
love
him what
that.
not to do. They taught him what not to do.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers. It's my show, It's my show. So I love that. I love that. I hate Alabama so much, but I also admire them because I know what they've done through all this time, and I know how hard it is now when every year Alabama might win the title, but they might also lose 15 kids, and then the next year they'll finish third or fourth or fifth. You know what I mean? So they're still producing these numbers, and I understand Alabama might have a quarterback like this year, and his name's not Tua Valanga, but they got Mac Jones, and Mac's got some talent, and they've kept a few talents random. So maybe Alabama are the sneaky to get through. I've got Alabama, mate, going 8-2, and we'll talk about the top four next. But I've got Alabama going a sneaky 8-2. So, folks, let's take a break right here for ads. Subscribe to Sports Talk Line. We've got Sports Talk Line merchandise. We've got Sports Talk Line hats, shirts, handbags, everything. Hop online. Help me raise money for more beers, right? Help me raise money for more beers. Thank you. Right away. So, look, we've still got, let's do our top matches of week 3.
Yep.
Right? So we'll do our top matches of week 3. We've only got 2 matches. I've got Auburn and Kentucky because I think that'll be tight. And then I've got LSU, Mississippi State.
Yep.
So I've got Auburn, Kentucky because I think the line's only 3. And then I've got LSU, Mississippi State because potentially I think that Mississippi State, I think the line's like 19, but I think Mississippi State might come within a touchdown. LSU. I think Mississippi State is stronger than I think.
Oh, yeah, well, I've got some notes on Tennessee, South Carolina, because that's probably the top.
Oh, nice.
So, and yeah, I've got some notes on Mississippi State, LSU, and I've got a little bit on Bama, Missouri as well. So
okay, so we'll talk the best matches, and then we'll talk our top 4.
Top 4, yep.
And then we'll talk if you like your sauce in the covered up fridge, right?
Oh yeah, okay. No worries. So, what was the first game you wanted to talk about? Was Kentucky who?
Auburn.
Yeah, I haven't got much on that, to be honest. So,
nah, I just think that I think Kentucky Auburn is -3.5. If I just check this one, put this there, put that. Hang on. So I think it was Kentucky Auburn was a -3.5. I think it was tight.
7.5.
Is it?
Yeah.
There was
7.5 and 49.5.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There was one match that was tight. That was super.
Yeah, that was Tennessee, South Carolina.
Tennessee, South Carolina. That's why. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Cool, right. So I'll wipe that one out then. Yeah. Tennessee, South Carolina. NV South. Nice. Right. Right. So yeah, look, I'll welcome us back. We'll talk about Tennessee, South Carolina.
Yep.
We'll talk about LSU and let's say nice. And then we'll go top 4. Magnificent. Yep. All right. Beautiful. You ready?
Yep, go for it.
All right, guys, welcome back. Here we are, the best matches in the SEC this weekend. Dave, who do you have, mate? Who is your standout match this weekend?
Well, standout match for me is Tennessee at South Carolina. I'm looking at this game. The line is 3.5, so it's pretty tight. The over-under 43.5, so looks to be a low-scoring game. We've got South Carolina, got a really solid defense and probably will struggle on offense. And Tennessee has a history of having tight games, so 3.5 is an awkward number for me, so I'm not too sure which way to go. I think Tennessee will win, but I can't say they'll win by a touchdown. The totals last year in Tennessee games was 45, and the totals in South Carolina games was 48. So we're expecting a game in the 40s, so probably like a 20-17 kind of score, or a 23-20 kind of score, something like that. So it's going to be pretty tight. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it because it is tight, and we're just going to see if that the new QB from Colorado State, Colin Hill, can actually do something. So I'm really interested to have a look at this game.
This match will be fantastic. I can't wait. Look, I'm all about the Tennessee this year. Tennessee Vols. I picked them at 6-4, which might be a bit stupid for me, but Tennessee Vols offensive line, all the boys who protect quarterback, they'll be strong. I see Tennessee winning this match. Tennessee will upset the card and will win this match. If Tennessee is paying $220, $230, jump on the Tennessee Vols to this match. I'm in. Fantastic. Now look, mate, one of my favourite matches all weekend is the LSU Tigers against Missouri. Now,
Mississippi State.
Mississippi State, yeah. LSU, Mississippi State. LSU, Mississippi State is 19 enough. Do you think LSU covers the 19 enough? Yes or no?
I don't think so. No.
I don't either.
Too many unknowns with LSU at this stage. So,
but I think LSU can potentially grow a lead or two, and won't potentially let them come back. But I can't see a 19.5 favourite. I think Vegas is trying too hard. I think LSU are not as strong as a 19.5 favourite as they think we are. There's no way.
Yeah, I think especially, if the game was at night without COVID in Death Valley,
bands and screaming.
Yeah, maybe so. But we're going to get I'm not too sure it's a day game or a night game, but there's going to be no crowd there. The atmosphere is going to be taken out, and that's worth almost a touchdown to LSU, I think, the crowd. So I'm just, again, I'm not too sure. I think they'll win the game, but I'm just not too sure they'll win by 3 touchdowns.
So are there any other matches this weekend that you are absolutely certain? Anything else?
Obviously, I want to see Alabama. So I really, really want to see Dylan Moses. I just want to see what he can do. I think the line's too big. I think it's 27.5. I'm not picking Alabama at 27.5, but I'm not taking Missouri with that start either.
Yes.
It's just a key number. It's just too much of an unknown with the Alabama team. So, but funnily enough, the total is 55. And with only 27 start, and with the Alabama defense the way it is, I don't think Missouri. I think
that's a good number, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the total will get to 55 at a 27.5. That what you're essentially saying is that Missouri will score 2 touchdowns and a field goal or something. Yeah. I just don't see that. So I think the under on the 55 is the play there.
On College Football Show with Spinksy and Dave, you heard it here first. The under Alabama. There you go.
Yeah.
And mate, we have two more topics left. This one I will let you go first. Right, I want your top 4. As we sit here right now, your top 4. The 4 teams you will take to be in the college football playoffs. The 4.
Yeah.
Who are your top 4?
So this is going to be a bit difficult because do we know whether the Big Ten's back in?
The Big Ten is in. The Big Ten is in. The Pac-12 is not. The Pac-12 is not. And these 4, you will live and die by your top 4 on this show. See, if you're wrong, you get hung on the street. Now, these are your 4.
Right. Well, I've got Clemson number 1.
Yes.
I think they're playing no one. The ACC is crap. They're cupcakes. So I've got Alabama 2. I think they'll win the SEC. I think they'll beat Florida in the final SEC championship game. I've got Oklahoma 3. I really love Spencer Rattler. Again, he was off a TV show on Netflix, QB1. Not sure whether you saw it or not, but
I've seen the QB1, yeah.
Yeah, and then I had I had this with the Big Ten out, so I had Florida at 4. But if the Big Ten's in, I'm hanging Ohio State at 4.
Oh, really? Right.
Yeah, I just think I think they're only going to play 7 games. I think in the Big Ten, and Ohio State, they'll win 7 out of 7 without too much drama. They'll be there.
Of those 4, who is your national champion?
Roll Tide. Roll Tide. They'll beat Clemson.
Nice. Okay, so my top 4 is I've got Clemson, obviously. I've got Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is up there. I've got Ohio State. And my SEC team is Georgia. I think Alabama falls short of Georgia, and I think Georgia makes it from the SEC. Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Georgia. And I honestly think my national championship is Ohio State and Georgia. I'm watching JT Daniels throw out against Ohio State. I'm seeing 2 teams we haven't seen for a very long time throw down. I'm seeing a 56-54 match. Ohio State and Georgia will be our 2 national championship sides, and Georgia wins it, man. Georgia wins it. As much as I don't want an SEC team to win over the 2 of us, I think Georgia's national champion. I think we all sit back and go, how did we not pick Georgia when Georgia had no one? Georgia was crap. How did we not pick? I think Georgia is actually the team that we all want to see win. I think Georgia wants to go. I think LSU and Alabama can't compete this year with the talent on the park. And yes, the 2 of us competed last year, and the 2 of us compete next year and the year after and every year for the next 100 years. But I think this might be the year of the Georgians. This might be the Georgians' year. I think Georgia.
When was the last time JT Daniels threw a pass in FBS football under pressure?
Never. But this could be the season. Yeah.
And you're banking that never.
I'm tipping Georgia to win the whole thing. Georgia will win. Georgia will lift the national championship above their head, like my LSU Tigers did last year. And when was the last time your Crimson Tide lifted it? Never.
They have.
Never, but yeah.
No, I really, in all seriousness, I just can't with that inexperienced on offense. I just can't see them doing it. Not this year.
I think this is Georgia's year. I think Georgia is so close. I think Clemson are too arrogant. I think Clemson being too arrogant. I see Oklahoma being not. Oklahoma is so far outside of it, and Ohio State are too reliant on their quarterback. I can see this is Georgia's year to sort of sneak in there. Georgia are close, man. Georgia's so close. And yes,
Uh,
I know they've gone through a few quarterbacks, but JT Daniels, man, JT is the future. And if he can't win it this year, he won't win it next year. JT Daniels is the future.
we shall see. We shall see.
First. Now, mate, everyone gets the same question on this show every week. Mate, Dave, do you keep your tomato sauce in the cupboard or the fridge?
I'm a fridge guy.
As you should be, like every other human on this earth. I don't understand people who keep it in the cupboard. Thank you, David. There's one for the fridge. Thank you very much. Very nice.
I didn't think that'd be odd. I thought most people would do that anyway.
As do I. And now it's become this whole thing about the cover of the fridge. So here we are. That's one more for the fridge. Look, thank you very much, mate, for coming on the show. It's very nice to have you here. If you want to follow Dave, hop on Educated Eel on Twitter, Educated Eel everywhere. Mate, tell the folks where can follow you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. So just hit me up on Twitter. I post some betting plays every week on Fridays generally. So 3 or 4 plays every weekend. Went 2-1 last week. Picked Miami as the underdog outright winner. So I'm getting into the wheelhouse this year or this week with SEC. So catch me on Twitter. Look out for some tips. Make some money.
All of us over here in Australia, he's a paramedic deals fair, and they're potentially going all the way this year. Well, I don't know, maybe. But for everyone else, he's an awesome tipper who knows his stuff. Right, guys, thank you very much. Hooroo.
See you guys. See everyone.
Yeah. Nice work, buddy.
No worries. That was great. And really enjoyed that.
You stop that, stop this, and stop that. There you go. Is that? There you go. Nice. Righto. Despite being an Alabama fan, David is also a top bloke. So thanks for coming on this show, mate. Thanks, guys, for tuning in once again. Hope you all enjoy SEC football this weekend. Hooroo.